Good evening, everybody. This is the Carver Zoning Board of Appeals for the date of July 23, 2025. We are in meeting room 1 at 6:30 p.m. on the dot. I would ask, first of all, for attention to be paid to issues having to do with reorganization of the board at this time. And typically what we do is have someone nominate one of us to be chair and then another one to be vice chair. So I'll recede for a few moments and turn that discussion over to the rest of you.
I would be happy to make the nomination for Attorney Gray, current chair, to be re-elected to chair.
I'd like to second that.
The crown wears heavy on this head for so many years.
It does.
Would anyone like to have any discussion about it?
Absolutely not.
No?
Come on, boys.
I'd like to take a vote. All in favor of Chairman Gray reassuming the title for the coming year, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Yes, and I'll speak now to a vote as to the vice chair. And Ms. Mello has done a wonderful job. She is planning on moving from the area for most of the year, sometime this fall. But for now, I don't see any reason why we can't re-elect her as vice chair during this period. So I ask for discussion on this point. And should at some point, by the way, should at some time she does leave the area for most of the year, then, we can always take this up again by way of a vote. But for now, since the plans are a little bit up in the air in terms of her eventual move, unless you have a date certain at this point.
Well, I was going to say October 1st, we're going to be gone.
You sure you know as of October 1st that you're going to be gone?
Unless the good Lord decides to do something different.
So we have the rest of July, all of August, all of September.
Yep.
So I would nominate Ms. Mello to serve for the next couple of months until she does leave us. And then when her seat becomes vacant, we'll elect a new vice chair.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second that.
I agree.
All in favor of Ms. Mello to be elected the vice chair of this board for the time being?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have the same old tired faces, or the same old tired face, I should say. All right, Ms. Mello, since you are the lady of the hour, I would ask that you read, actually before I'm a little bit ahead of myself, we've got to do an approval of the minutes from the meeting of May 28, 2025 first. And as is my custom, I have circulated a draft of these meeting minutes to all board members so they can review these in advance and tell us all whether they have any amendments, modifications, or changes they'd like to make.
No. No.
No.
No.
Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
These are the minutes of May 28, 2025.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that piece is done, and now we can move on to our public hearing for this evening. And I would ask Ms. Mello to read that into the record, that notice.
Okay. This is case number 29-9-B1-R. The petitioner is David Bastian, requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 2260 through 2263, 5221 and/or 5300 to 5330 of the Carver zoning bylaw for property located at 15 Pleasant Street in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 29, lot 9-B1-R. So as to construct an attached 1,448 square foot accessory apartment. 800 square feet is allowed as of right in the residential agricultural district.
Okay, well done. Thank you for that, Ms. Mello. And I observe Mr. Baston to be back in front of us again. You may approach the microphone.
All right.
I have a distinct memory that you were redirected.
That's correct. So,
I want to ask you, why are you here?
so
And did you have to pay another filing fee?
no, I did not have to. Thank
Why?
you. It just wasn't required.
And who didn't require it?
I believe whoever was supposed to require it didn't require it.
Who are you covering for?
I think it was Jill who said she wouldn't charge us another filing fee.
Okay. So, Mr. Baston, what's up?
So the last time I was here in front of you, and I'm sure you recall, so I'll be quick. There had been a new bylaw passed that would allow for a second ADU onto a residence, and so that could be allowed through special permit through the planning department. And so it was recommended that we withdraw our application here and move to the planning department and request a special permit for a second ADU. So I did. 5 days after we met, I went to the planning department and I sat with them and explained, and they had seen your email that you sent. I appreciate that very much. So they had a little bit of a background of where we were and what we were doing. And so I said, yeah, I'm here to file for a special permit for a second ADU. And he said, well, I can't give you a permit for a second ADU because I don't know if you actually have a first ADU on your house. What makes it, how do I know that you actually have one? And they said, well, we permitted it through the town when we built it in 2003, I think it was. And it's set up as an apartment, so we assume that it's an ADU. And he said, so I don't have any proof that it is. I need proof one way or another before I can do anything.
Who told you that they needed proof?
So this was, whoever the gentleman is, I don't recall his name. I assume he's the head of the planning board, as I sat with and spoke with. Do you know who it was, Rod?
I'm not sure if you spoke to Tom Mott, town planner, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe that's who it was, yeah. So anyways, Jill was gracious enough. She overheard the conversation and stepped in and said, look, maybe what we should do is have you talk to Rod about this, Rod Palmer, and see if we can kind of figure out something. So I spoke with Rod that evening, actually, and we came to the conclusion that would be a good idea for him to come out and do a site visit at the house and to see if the current addition that we have in the house actually technically qualifies as an ADU.
Did that occur, that visit, on May 6th of this year?
Did what occur on May 6th?
When the building commissioner came out to look at the property? Was that on May 6th?
Was it on May 6th, Rod? Is that the date? Yeah, that was it.
Go ahead.
Okay. So he came and did his assessment of the place, and I have his letter, and he's here to hopefully be able to, graciously here to be able to answer any questions that you might have on the subject. But the bottom line is, and I have a copy of the letter if you'd like to see it, that the addition that we have now technically under current code does not qualify as an ADU. It qualifies as extended living space, which means I can't go to the planning board for a special permit for a second ADU because I technically don't have a first ADU, is what I understand. So we were then referred back in front of you for the original reason that we were here, was to see if we could seek relief for the additional square footage of the ADU that we'd like to put on now.
I'm not getting what you're asking.
So I cannot apply for a special permit to put on a second adult dwelling unit because I technically don't have a first adult dwelling unit.
So do you not need a permit for the first ADU at this point?
No, I don't.
Why?
Because it's considered extended living space. It's not considered an ADU.
Is there a kitchen in there?
There is a kitchen in there.
Who says it's not considered an ADU? The one you have now?
Yeah, the letter that Rod put together, and I'm happy to turn the microphone over to him to answer your questions more specifically.
Is this letter dated May 27?
It is, yeah.
We have a copy of this letter.
Great. I would be happy to have gone through the process of applying for that special permit. Like, that was my intention the day I arrived in the planning office, was to apply for the special permit. And, you know, with your help, file for it, get it done, get it approved, and go that route.
So it
But was
seems
made
like what
clear that
you're
it
asking-
couldn't go that way.
We sort of got the cart before the horse here. You need approval of the first ADU.
I don't think so.
Why?
Well, if it doesn't qualify as an ADU, why do I need a permit for
Why are
an
you
ADU?
saying it doesn't qualify?
Well, because the building commissioner says it doesn't qualify as an ADU.
Anything further?
No?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Ms. Mello, you want to go first?
Well, okay. When you had, and I haven't looked at your file, but when you did the construction, you said in 2003?
Yes, I believe it's 2000.
What does the file show?
What was,
When you look at the building file, Mr. Palmer, do you have a copy of the building file?
And I'd be more than happy to, you know, help.
Yeah, can you, perfect.
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Because if, you know, that's what, if I had understood that's what I would have done. I would have gone and looked at the file to see what's in the file and what was permanent.
So first, may I explain, in my opinion, as a building commissioner, what some of the requirements of an ADU. So an ADU today, and even what we would recognize as an in-law apartment or accessory dwelling unit years ago, before this bylaw came into effect, before this accessory dwelling unit law
This
came into
newest
effect.
one.
Yes, February
Okay.
2nd, 2000.
You're talking about the state law that
Yes.
passed back
That's
last
right,
fall.
right. But even prior to that,
Okay.
we in Carver had a by right in-law apartment, no zoning approval required. But even then, when you build something like that, there are requirements. There's a requirement for a complete fire separation assembly from the basement floor to the underside of the roof, through all those interstitial spaces through the dwelling. And the purpose of that is these in-law apartments that we had and these accessory dwelling units that we call them now need to have a separation, because it's not always for your family member. In some situations, you're going to rent it out to somebody you don't know. It could be a young couple, could be an elderly couple, it could be a person with an infant. So it's important that there be a 1-hour separation between those two units, protecting each side from each other. In addition to that, there has to be a fire alarm system that's independent of one another. There has to be 2 means of egress, independent from one another. There has to be a sound transmission assembly between the two. There's a whole host of requirements for creating something that essentially is a 2-family dwelling, and that's what these are. We call them ADUs, but they're 2-family dwellings. You have 2 separate independent families that may not even know each other. In fact, by today's ADU regulations, the owner doesn't even need to live there. They can live in Florida,
Correct.
and they can rent out both sides to
Yep,
people
right.
that don't know each other. So all these physical requirements are very important.
Is there a difference,
Now-
can I ask
Yep.
a question? Is there because I see that your letter addresses it as our recommendation at the time was the easiest way to move this forward, or one of the recommendations, was create a two-family structure and ask for an ADU. It appears that your letter addresses a two-family structure.
Maybe you're interpreting it wrong, but based on my site visit and what I saw, that is not a two-family structure, nor is it an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay.
In my opinion, that is nothing more than expanded living space with a second kitchen. And we all know that a second kitchen does not establish a two-family dwelling. We all know that. There's case law that would.
I'm confused again. Let me quote from your letter,
Okay.
because there's a lot of uncertainty here, based on what you just said.
And that's why I'm here today, to try to help.
Your letter of May 27th states, third paragraph, "During my site visit, I did not observe the following legal requirements necessary for the formation of a two-family dwelling." And then you go on to quote the Massachusetts Building Code, C780 CMR. So in one breath, back in May, you're writing to the very pleasant Mr. Baston, talking to him about the formation of a two-family dwelling, and you're here tonight telling us this really isn't a two-family dwelling. So I am confused.
So, based on my site visit and my observation, what he has today, Mr. Gray, is nothing more than a single-family dwelling. And back in 2003, they built an addition, and that addition is nothing more than expanded living space with a kitchen. His in-laws have been living there since that time, and at that time, they went before the Zoning Board of Appeals. I don't know why, I wasn't here, but they did, because we didn't have in our zoning bylaws that by right ability to build an in-law or accessory dwelling unit. So what he has today, in my opinion, is nothing more than a single-family dwelling with expanded living space. If he came to me today and applied for a building permit for what he has, I would issue him a building permit by right. I would have issued that permit without any zoning board of appeals requirements or planning board requirements. I would have, to ensure that future buyers of that home don't buy it with the thoughts of renting it out to somebody as an apartment. What I would have required is a deed restriction. And that deed restriction, created by an attorney, would have articulated what it is and what it should be used for and what it will not be used for. So for a buyer that does their due diligence tomorrow to buy that home, they will clearly see within that deed a deed restriction that identifies what it is and that it shall not be used for rental purposes.
So does he need that deed restriction?
I would ask him for it. And I brought with me tonight a copy of a deed restriction for something parallel to what he has today, for something where they built a small addition with a kitchen, another bedroom, and a bathroom. Exactly what he has for their in-laws. They have no desire to rent it out, none whatsoever. And
I have to interrupt again. It does seem to me, based upon what I'm reading, and I'm a pretty good reader, that what you're saying tonight is different than what you said in your letter of May 27th. You are speaking of the requirements in your letter for a two-family dwelling regulated by the Mass Building Code. Now, I understand what you're saying here tonight, but it is opposite, in my judgment, to what you wrote on May 27th in your letter, which is a part of this file. Now, the other thing that I wanted to bring up is the fact that for as long as I've been sitting on this board, we've always had an accessory apartment bylaw in the town of Carver. Always. I don't know why, without reviewing the file, we may need to take a hiatus to do that. I don't know why this wasn't caught back then and why you apparently went ahead and did this construction without the appropriate permit at the time. This is assuming that the accessory apartment bylaw 2260 and sections following were in existence back when you constructed this additional living space. If it's the same bylaw that was on the books back then you needed a special permit, which you don't have.
Well, no, he may have it. It may be in the file.
It may be. So that's why I
That's why
said
I
we may
asked.
need to take a look at
Yeah.
this. We may need to take a hiatus to review the file. But now we're sort of trying to put the genie back in the bottle, right? And
Well,
I'm getting a letter here dated May 27th, and then verbal testimony this evening saying, oh, this isn't really a two-family dwelling after all. I am at sea about this.
well, and Mr. Bastian, I want to say, I admire your even willingness to have all your in-laws and your parents living with you, which is the reason I'm heading south. No. So it's not that I am against this project. I want to make sure our bylaws are followed.
Right.
And so if in 2003, your case file says you applied for an in-law addition, and that's what you were given, then I have to assume that was what the town believed, the board believed at that time,
Right.
that they were giving you a special permit for an in-law.
Right.
Now, in my estimation, that doesn't mean that you can't have a second ADU. But if it's a second ADU, that's what we have to call it.
So I understand that completely. So this is really what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, is like, how do I go from where I am now to the
To
next
where-
step,
yeah.
right? And I understand that that really is dictated by whether the addition I have now is technically an ADU or not, right?
And
I
if it
understand.
is a second ADU, if it is a second ADU, then what we told you the first time around
Correct,
is the same.
100% correct.
It's the same.
I understand.
What you would need to do, obviously, is wait for, or maybe not so obviously to you, but as a reminder to the rest of the members of the board, you have to wait for the Attorney General's office to approve the
The new bylaw.
revised bylaw, the new bylaw that was voted at last town meeting. Once that's approved, that is the bylaw under which you would be compelled to comply.
Right, I understand.
So I'm going to leave it to the board members how they want to handle this. I'm certainly prepared to have a brief continuance, come back another day and look at the file. But what was described to us the last time, insofar as that other one that you already have at the property, sounded very much like an ADU to us. And I think you called it that.
I never heard the term ADU until I came before you guys, so. that's
How
the
you
first time
know?
that was after you
Well,
guys
an
did, so-
in-law. I think you called it an
In-law,
in-law.
that's
In-law.
Right.
Yeah.
An in-law.
Because
Yep.
that's what the purpose of it was.
Yep.
My mother-in-law at the time lived there, she
Yep.
divorced and.
And we're not saying that, as Ms. Mello just said, we're not saying that's a bad thing. All we're saying is we need to get this right.
So
And-
I understand that, like, I understand you need to get it right, I appreciate that, and I'm happy to work with you and through this until we get it right, because I also would like it to be right, because I don't want it to come back
Right.
20 years from now and say, someone say, look, it wasn't right, we have to redo all this. But I hope you understand that we've been at this for almost 18 months. We've been bounced from one department to the next, we've been referred on and then referred back. We've had to wait 60 days for meetings so that, because it's not like you can pick up a phone and say, here, I got this information, can we move forward? We have to wait 30 days, in this case, 60 days, because there's no meeting last month. And so the stress that it causes us, the longer this draws out, is significant, and it's noteworthy.
If
particularly
you feel as if you want to have another meeting with us, we can schedule that fairly promptly. I must say that all of us were surprised when this came through again,
Yeah, so-
because you were given very specific instructions.
So imagine my surprise.
To go to the planning board.
The planning board, and
Yes.
they said, we can't do it. Like, we can't do it until you know for sure that this is or isn't, and that was just where it was left. Like that, there was no, recommendation or instruction beyond that.
So we'll have to look at this file and see if there was any sort of action taken by this board or any other board, since apparently this was built and you don't recall whether any
Do you-
requests for
Yeah,
special permits or anything were filed?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I had a subcontract, or a general contractor who did it. They pulled all the permits, they did everything. I just wrote the checks, like, was really what I did, you know? So I don't know specifically how it was permitted, or I assume that it was permitted as an in-law because that was the purpose of it, but I can't tell you for sure.
May I offer some food for thought? I have the actual building permit application in front of me. Here's what it says. Description of work, addition to main house, 26 by 26. That's what it was, built in 2003. 10-foot 6-inch by 12-inch bedroom, mudroom, and that's it. Nowhere does it say in-law. Nowhere does it say apartment, or it's
So it
It's
was granted,
nothing more
it was
than-
granted as an addition?
As an
And-
addition.
And keep in mind, to get into this quote-unquote ADU, you have to walk into the main house. And that's the only way out. You have to
There's
go in
no
that.
second-
No, there is not. And so, you know, I refer to the building code because that should never be rented to anybody, because it doesn't comply with all of these minimum safety standards. So it should never be rented out to anybody. It could be used by your family for extended living space, but that's it. So
Would it be
I have,
possible for us to see that packet?
what's that?
Could we look at
Could
the
we see
packet?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
original?
And also what I did, just so you folks have a little bit of an understanding. So things are different from 2003. You know, today we have folks that are baby boomers like me, moving in with their children. And it's becoming more and more popular. And these additions that folks are putting on their homes, they're not apartments. They're just additional living space so folks can live in dignity and have privacy and be with their family. And that's what this is. Back in 2003, that's what this was.
Multi-generational living.
Yep.
And so I see this all the time. People don't want to build an ADU. They don't want to spend the money for a fire separation and a separate 1,500-gallon septic tank and all of the other things that are required. You end up spending as much money for an ADU as a small single-family home. So most folks just want a place for their in-laws or their sibling. So I do require a deed restriction, and they're done by attorneys. They're very thorough, and they articulate exactly what they can and can't do. And I brought a copy of one that I approved just a few months ago, and I'd like to share that with you if I could.
What's that?
Because it has to be
So
one.
so this is a copy of a
Register
typical
with it.
deed restriction
Okay.
that I would require, so that future buyers
Thank you.
know that it will never be anything other than additional living space for their family members. So that's what you would ask for. That's their writing.
Okay.
In blue.
Yep.
The people who reside or have resided in that part of your home, have they been there since approximately 2003?
The people who are there now? No. So my ex-mother-in-law was there first.
Okay, let me stop you there. When she first moved in, how old was she?
2003, so. Let's see, I would have been 4, so she would have been in her mid to late 50s.
Yeah. I'm a stickler about these bylaws, as is Mr. Palmer. And although he's reading this differently, I see this as something that should have been permitted back in 2003. I do. I will check back to see if this version of the bylaw that's in our books was the bylaw in existence at the time that your place was constructed. It's very clear. And the reason I just asked about age is because age was one of the criterion at the time. You had to have elderly and/or handicapped residents, 55 or older. And in the past, this board has consistently determined that if there is a separate kitchen, then that's accessory apartment. Now, it's true that the landscape has changed, hasn't it? And we talk about multi-generational living, and this is a good thing, and so on and so forth. But I am having a hard time with this because I think this horse left the barn, and it shouldn't have at the time. And now we're being told, oh, well, forget it. It's really what I'm looking for. It's one accessory, not two, because the other one doesn't really count. I can't get past that argument. I cannot. So I want to look back and see where we were in 2003, if this is the same version of the bylaw at 2003 that appears in our books. And I understand that the building permit at the time was issued, not by Mr. Palmer, but by one of his predecessors, and perhaps it shouldn't have been. If we look at that as an ADU, then and now, then what you're still looking for from us is approval for a second. And that's not within our jurisdiction. That would clearly be the planning board. Now, if necessary, if the rest of the board goes along with this, I'm certainly happy to appear in front of the planning board and tell them how we got to this decision, at least what I'm saying. So we can have a very quick turnaround meeting, if you'd like, within the next couple of weeks, if that can be arranged with the schedules of the rest of us. But that's where my head is at right now. This should have been, in my opinion, permitted as an accessory apartment under the applicable bylaw at the time. So he's got one in there now, and he's looking for a second. The one that he's looking for is not a first, no matter how you parse the language.
Go back and do what was done.
Gentlemen? Questions?
Now, we're just taking,
Comments?
still taking a look at this.
Okay.
Is somebody living in there now?
Yes.
Okay.
In which one? The first one, right?
Well, so the addition that we have on now, my in-laws currently reside there, where we're waiting to try to move this project forward.
Right.
So that my mother could.
Yes,
get back
I think we understood that.
Yeah.
Right.
So if it ends up that it has to, so if it was already an ADU, and then you have to apply for the two-family, are these the list of conditions that you need for them? So how do you want to work that? If it already is an ADU, and then he's applying for a second, what would their requirements be?
So I don't want to be the fly in the ointment, but, you know,
Would he have to meet all this criteria?
to build 3 dwelling units connected requires a full-blown NFPA sprinkler system. It's not something he's going to do. It's cost prohibitive. It's never going to happen. So again, I don't want to be the fly in the ointment, but it's next to impossible to do that. And, you know, I can't stress enough that what he has is not an ADU. And people make mistakes. And I believe that that building official required a special permit in error. It should never have been required. It should have been permitted. There's no reason why this gentleman's mother or mother-in-law can't live with him. And there's no reason she has to be 55 years old either. I think that our bylaw that we have or had before this bylaw came into effect, this state law, yeah, there's some requirements. It doesn't have to be a relative. It has to be somebody over the age of 55 years old or somebody disabled. And that's what we had on the books. Doesn't mean your mother can't live with you. Doesn't mean your mother can't have her own kitchen and live with dignity and have privacy. And that's why, when folks come to me today for these small additions, for that purpose, I issue a building permit. And I do it with a deed restriction, and I'm not the only one. This is done throughout all 350 towns and cities in Massachusetts. I'm not the first to do it.
So do you follow up on the deed restrictions?
I do.
as
I
far
make sure
as-
they're recorded. If you look at that one, you'll see a stamp on there.
Yeah.
At the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. I make sure that it's
So when the house
recorded
is sold,
so that
you'd
folks buying
follow
that
up.
house tomorrow know what's there. And if you read that, attorney did a very good job in articulating what it can and can't be.
How many square feet is that one that you have in there now?
It's 26 by 26, so I think that's 670.
Yeah, it's a tad on 700.
680, something like that.
Mr. Chairman, how do we go back and check the permit, or
No,
the,
you're checking it now.
no, the 2003 permit against the bylaws at the time? Because obviously the permit refers to specific sections of the bylaws.
Does it?
It does.
He didn't see it yet.
Yep.
Could we have
You
that back
guys
one more
gave it
minute?
back before I had it.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I didn't.
I'll come get it.
No, I got it.
Thanks. Thank you. Was the kitchen added after the initial construction, or was it done at the same time?
It's done at the same time.
Because they would have had to plan that out as to where to run electrical and all that stuff.
They did.
You know, refrigerator, stove, takes different,
There's a very nice plan. There's a professional plan done in there by a design professional.
Back on, we've been referencing 2003, it's actually 2002. Back in November, this board had a meeting and voted unanimously to grant your request for a special permit at that time. Do you remember? And that decision
let's see.
I think I have a better plan if you folks would like to look at that.
Hold on just a sec. Please. There's no mention of a kitchen in our decision. And the reason that the special permit was granted, according to our decision back in 2002, quoting, "The board felt the applicant had met the spirit and intent of the bylaw in providing an accessory apartment for an elderly family member. So clearly, this was viewed by us at the time, in our written decision, as an accessory apartment. I think what you're trying to do now is to have a second, which we're not necessarily opposed to.
Right, I understand that, so. I believe we're all moving in the same direction, I do. I appreciate all that you've done, and when I was here the last time before the board, I left with this feeling that, like, that you had become emotionally a part of this with me, like, that you really want, I understand what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do here, and in the spirit of it, we'll do everything you can help. I'm just trying to find
The path.
the path to get there, and so far, the path has had so many turns and so many, like, step backs before
Not
step
here,
forward.
not here,
Yeah,
not
like,
here.
it's just, I just need to know what to do, and I'll do it.
Did you want to show us a plan?
Yeah, I have another plan. I'd like to show you that. This is
Sorry, I
the-
interrupted you.
That's okay. This is the plan that was approved by the building department.
Is it updated from the last time, or is it the same?
Or is this the old?
No, this is the old plan.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Is there any kitchen in there?
Yes. Right.
Yep. And that's the old one that goes back to '02, you see it? However, that was filed after our decision, which was in November. This is a month later.
Yeah, but the building permit wasn't issued immediately after that permit was written. So this was the plan that was given to the building department for approval of the permit, and this is exactly what they built.
You know, we may need to look at the minutes from November of 2003 to see if a kitchen was mentioned at this time, because this plan is a month after our decision. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
But if the decision allows an accessory dwelling apartment,
Whatever they call
it
it.
allows a
Right, it would
kitchen.
allow a kitchen.
It absolutely allows a kitchen.
Yes. Although it wasn't mentioned in our decision. So it was clearly viewed as an accessory back then.
And it does have two, if I'm looking at the plan correctly, it does have an egress, two egresses.
That's one. So you have to go in the main front door, and then once you get in the main front door, you'll take a right, and you'll go through a glass door.
Through the porch.
No.
I'm just looking on here, it says
Yeah, so
porch
so you-
into the house.
So you come through this main door.
Yep.
And you go through here, there's an all-glass door, you can actually look into the apartment.
Yep.
And then, what you're looking at over here is a deck, but there's
Yep.
no stairs off that deck, it's just a balcony deck.
Mark,
So
give me that
there's-
back.
This is the only way in. You come
Thanks.
in the main house, you are now in the primary house, the principal dwelling.
Yep.
You go through this glass door into this expanded living space. The other thing I'd like to mention is,
Yeah,
Go right, you go
the
back.
building commissioner at that time that directed them to the ZBA.
Yep.
And I believe that, and I know this doesn't change things, but I believe that that was an error. I don't think that should have happened.
but at the time, and we had cases go to court over this, at the time, if it had a kitchen, it was a separate unit. I mean, we know the
I
famous
understand.
case. And the court agreed.
I understand, that was 22 years ago, and I understand, but.
But you have to go with what the law was 22 years ago.
But I believe, even 22 years ago though, Fran, even 22 years ago, these were permitted as,
Not extra
Additional living
living
space.
space, no.
No.
They were permitted as accessory apartments. And our law said there's probably no real visible front door here, because our law said you can't have a second front door on the front of the house.
Right.
So, you know, in every town's different, but this abides by our town.
But-
And thank you for doing the right thing in 2003.
Yeah, we try to do the right thing every time, we're trying to do the right thing now.
And you did the right thing. And
absolutely
the board
did.
heard you, granted your petition, and
There needs to be.
we, apparently you or someone on your behalf, and we as a board viewed this as an accessory. Here it is in black and white. This is the board decision unappealed. This is the law. So, rather than getting hung up in the language about what was intended at the time or what actually appears to be present currently. Thank you, Mark. Let's try to move past this because it's clear that we view this as an accessory at the time. So what are we going to do? How do we move this one way or the other? How do we do this?
Mr. Gray.
I've said many times over the course of more years than I care to remember that we follow the law, even though something may seem compelling on its face. We take the oath, we have to follow the law. And the law as defined by this board in an unappealed decision was that the first apartment in there was an accessory. So what you're trying to do now is a second. And there's a pathway to that. But as Mr. Palmer says, it could be prohibitively expensive. I appreciate him coming in and advocating for you. But I think this is going to have to go to the planning board, like we told you the first time. And you're going to have to make a decision about whether you're prepared to petition the planning board for this property now to be a multi with a second ADU in there, which we don't have jurisdiction to do that. The planning board would have to do this. So talk to me. How do we do this? Or do you want to keep it here? Because that's not my inclination. Everybody's seen our decision from 2002, right? You seen it, Mr. Barrington? Mr. Poirier, have you seen it?
I didn't read through the whole, let me just take a quick peek.
That's it.
Okay. Yep.
Flip.
Oh, okay.
While Mr. Poirier is reading, I had a question for Mr. Palmer. And that is, in your letter of May 27, you list a number of things that you felt were regulated by the Mass Building Code that
Yes.
needed to be addressed.
Yes.
All excellent and very specific items that sort of gives him an outline of how he needs to proceed. A complete and uninterrupted fire separation assembly, protecting the two dwelling units from each other. Is that expensive?
Very.
Approved fire rating primary door accessing the two dwelling living areas. That's not so expensive, right? It's a door.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more than a door, but you're correct.
Two separate proprietary fire alarm systems for each dwelling unit.
Expensive.
The addition contains only one means of egress via the principal dwelling. That would need to be addressed for sure. The addition does not have direct access to the utility areas in the event of a mechanical failure. So that's a building issue for you.
I have a question in regards to this.
So the fire, just so that I
Go
can,
ahead.
I'm nearly done. So the fire issue, the fire prevention issue is the main cost that you would incur if you go before the planning board for a second and a two-family dwelling designation. Is that right?
I think, to create a fire separation assembly in there today, you'd have to rip that common wall apart on both sides. It's just, you'd be tearing the house apart. It would be cost prohibitive. It just, it's not something that is easily done. You know, it's a fire separation assembly, it's a sound transmission wall, there's a lot to it, and it's not easily constructed.
I'm not,
It's something that can typically only be done when you're building something new. when
Yeah.
you're Building an addition.
I'm not familiar with the building code like you
Yeah,
are,
I understand.
but is there some approach that could be used in this case that would not be so costly, would still be compliant with the building code? Or is that something you need to look at?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's something that would be very expensive. And, you know, back to what I had said earlier, if this becomes 3 separate units, it will require a sprinkler system. It's not gonna happen. You know, there's no town water out there to even support a sprinkler system. It's just, you know, I wish there were a relief valve where there was some legal way of, I don't want to say going back in time, but recognizing this as expanded living space by some method so that he could achieve this actual accessory dwelling unit complying with all of those things that I have on that letter. And at the end of the day, he has, yes, he's going to have 3 kitchens. He's going to have 2 kitchens in 1 dwelling. Then he's going to have an
And
accessory
2
dwelling.
accessories, right? 2 accessories.
He'll have 1 single-family dwelling with
Yes.
expanded living space that has 2 kitchens. And he'll have 1 recognizable accessory dwelling unit complying with all the building code requirements.
So something you just said interested me, and that is there some legal way that we can go back on a decision that this board issued in 2002 and reverse what we said at the time? Now, I must confess that I've never sat on a case where we go back in time 25 years and change things to accommodate a petitioner. And we're not talking about changing, we wouldn't be talking about changing because there's been a change in the law necessarily. We would be changing it to recognize that at the time, this was not an accessory, that was additional living space. Then you'd be back to the point where you would just be seeking a special permit for 1 ADU, if I understand correctly. And again, this would not be based on the change of the law as it exists currently. It would be going back in time and changing the language of our decision.
Can I ask a question? Just to clarify for myself.
Yeah.
If code has changed, the requirements have changed from 2002 to 2000 to now, right? Of what constitutes an adult dwelling unit. So now you have to have all this fire
That's
protection,
what
right?
my question was going to be.
Back then, that was not required. So the law has changed, code has changed. So if you examine this today, just as it is as a structure, it does not meet the current requirements to be an ADU. You don't necessarily have to change what the recommendation was 20-something years ago. You just have to recognize that according to the changes in the law, it no longer qualifies.
Yeah, that's what I just said. We would not entertain doing this because there's a change in the law. We're not looking at this through the prism of 2024, 2025. We're looking at what we saw back in 2002, and are we going to change that? Then you'd be in a situation where you'd need to come back before us for a special permit for the one that you want to construct.
Right.
You follow what I mean? I don't want to get hung up in where the law is now versus where it was then.
Because you don't want to have to meet today's code versus.
And I guess that was going to be my question. He had the permit based upon what code was in 2002.
And based on his testimony.
And none of this fire suppression and multi-service systems and whole house was required at that time
It was.
for more than,
For an
That's
ADU?
right.
for an ADU,
In 2003, all of that was required.
to put up an ADU.
Yes, yes. And to build anything that has separate families
Yep.
requires a fire separation assembly. It's been required since 1975.
Okay.
So in 2003, everything that I wrote was required. That's why I had
Okay.
included that in the letter. It wasn't
So
by
the
today's
building
standards.
inspector.
It was by the standards of that time. So when that was created in 2003, it did not comply with the building code requirements then and now. And that's why it will be very challenging for that to ever be.
But in today's code, if it's an addition versus an in-law, he can maintain currently exactly what he
Yes.
has and just put that new
Yes,
regulations.
What he's suggesting is characterizing what's already there as something different than was characterized before this board in 2002. It would require modifying or amending, whatever word you want to use, our decision of 2002. To say this is not an accessory, wasn't an accessory at the time, it was just additional living space, which is contrary to what this board had always ruled in the past, which is if you got a kitchen in there and you're moving people in, it's an accessory.
Right.
So I don't know if any of you feels as if they want to go to a vote tonight on this, or whether you need some time to think about it some more. The issues here, I think, have been outlined well by both of you. Thank you for your input.
you will.
But that's what we're dealing with.
I have another question. If the house had been built to what code said in 2002,
For an accessory.
for an accessory with all the, that you talked about, and he wanted to add an ADU, and we could do that, would he have to put in this whole house fire suppression now? Because it's three
Yeah, he's
units
already said
instead
that.
of two. I'm just, well, I want to make sure.
Yeah.
I got to get everything straight in my head. Thanks. All right,
Yes, it would.
So it's a matter of labeling or characterizing this as not an ADU, the one that exists currently, but additional living space.
I have photos of this as well. I didn't print them. They probably would have been helpful, so I apologize for not bringing them, but I do have.
You're good. We accept all of your representations.
Thank you.
Tim's got some, I think.
So in
Mr. Barrington?
2273, as we're reading about the
2260.
2260, there's no mention of a kitchen anywhere.
And what is your point?
Well, you had mentioned about, when you've done accessory dwellings in the past, once the kitchen went in, then that made it the ADU.
That's not listed as one of the criteria for making it an accessory apartment.
What we did is examine each plan to determine whether this proposed construction, whatever it was construction that fit the bylaw. And as I've said many times already tonight, we viewed it as an accessory at the time.
Okay.
So, what this petitioner wants to do would require a re-characterization of what this board decided back in 2002. Now, the plan that I looked at tonight was done a month after our decision, and there was a kitchen in there. I don't know what the plan was before, whether a kitchen showed up in that plan or not. And Mr. Baston does not recall. Passage in time, that's certainly understandable. But to get to yes, I think we have to recharacterize and revise our decision, if we feel that's appropriate, if we feel that's appropriate.
So if we did do that, then he could move ahead with this as an ADU,
A new
a
ADU.
new ADU.
So we would then have 3 dwelling units at the same property. 3.
Well,
2
But it's-
ADUs and the main house.
No,
because now
no,
they have
because
first
now you're not
ADU
calling it an
without
ADU
living
anymore.
space.
So
My
it's only-
problem-
We sort of have to squint and say, well, this really isn't an ADU. This is part of the main house. But you're talking about 3 families. I mean, 3 different parts of that house where space is dedicated to family members. Mr. Baston's immediate family and his in-laws on either side. 3 kitchens. And it's a 1-family.
no.
Yes.
But- No,
It's a
it'll be,
1-family.
it'll be the original house and the original addition that was put on would be one, and the new ADU would be the second.
If that's the direction we go. Right now,
No, I understand, yes, okay,
it's 2 plus
yeah.
another one, maybe.
And if it's 2 ADUs, then it involves a substantial refiguring cost.
And it goes over to the planning board.
Yeah.
So you folks have to decide whether you want to change that decision in the way it's written.
Can we legally do that
Change your decision?
from 22
20,
years ago?
yeah.
You asking me my legal opinion?
Yes.
Well, otherwise then we have to seek legal opinion.
Well, if that comes before us by way of a properly filed request, we would have to take it up. Because it's an unappealed decision. Meaning the law of the land right now is that 2002 decision. So if he wants a change, he would have to say, okay, well, I've
He wants to appeal the
Discerned an error.
2002, you'd have to
and I
appeal
want
the
to amend
2002.
that, I want you folks to consider amending that decision. You understand, Mr. Palmer?
Partially. I mean, if something.
You may
is
not
allo-
agree, but that's the way it would have to go.
Yeah, and I'm just throwing this out there just for discussion purposes, but if something is only allowed by special permit, not by right, and you obtain that special permit and build whatever it is you want to build, and then down the road, the bylaw changes and allows you to do that by right without a special permit, then that special permit that you had obtained prior is moot. Am I right? Is that special permit, you know, and I'm not trying to get off course here, but I just think that, back to what I had said, unless this is recognized as a single-family dwelling with expanded living space, it will be cost prohibitive for the
Yeah,
town.
we accept that, or I do it.
Yep,
Yep.
and that will be the nail in the coffin.
And I have a question, if I could, so I have heard quite a bit of, as you just kind of talked about these things that have come up over the years and in the past, and And I have heard that, okay, if you're, like, we've always said that if you put a kitchen, it automatically becomes an accessory. We already automatically assume it's gonna be a cellular dwelling unit. But if there isn't anything in the bylaw that says that a kitchen denotes that, is it possible that that decision could have been made in error? Or that classification back then could have been made in error?
No, because you applied for an accessory dwelling unit. That's what you applied. In the permit itself, it says in-law.
Okay.
An accessory
So
apartment.
if you had applied for, in my view,
An addition.
an addition
And left
and
it
put a
at that.
kitchen in,
Yeah. And had I
It would have
known,
been.
had I known, then that's exactly what I would have
And Mr.
thought, right?
Palmer is correct when he
Technology.
says that this bylaw did have a carve-out at the time for units less than 800 square feet,
yep,
which this one was.
yep.
So I don't recall the circumstances of why this matter had to be addressed by the Board of Appeals at the time. If this was an accessory by right, because it was under 800 square feet and
Was it
satisfied all the
800
other
at the
conditions.
time? Was it 800 at the
I
time?
think so. I think so. I think it was 800 until fairly recently. Then it went up to, I think, 1,000. Am I right?
900.
No.
The new law is
900
900.
as of February.
So
Could we move the kitchen?
he was under 800 square feet,
I'm just telling.
and it still came before
You
us.
can do anything, right?
And we have a special permit that was issued. Was that necessary?
I think so, if it was less than,
You would say it would not be necessary.
right, would not be
If an,
necessary.
if the ADU is under that square footage now, it's still subject to all these new rules, right?
So.
Or all the rules that you say that were in place since 1974,
Yeah.
or 75.
So when I mentioned 1975, I was speaking specifically to those building code requirements. You know, we've evolved in the last 50 years, but.
Correct,
but-
right.
But they were still requirements. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
And you know what? We may very well have required a special permit for any accessory at the time.
At the time.
It might have my add, I don't know that, I don't know that 22 or 23 years ago, it was a by right use in our bylaw.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Right. It might have required a special permit.
I think that's probably correct. I think we had to apply for it because it was the only route that we could go.
That you could
Okay.
do at the
So-
time.
Forget all that. We're back to recharacterizing, amending, modifying a decision that has been in existence and was compliant with the bylaw 22 years ago. And we would only be doing this to help him out. Is that right? Is that right? That's why they pay you guys the big
Or is
money.
it to make a correction that,
Of what, of a mistake that was made back then?
right, of something that was overlooked?
It's hard to characterize it as a mistake
It wasn't a
at
mistake.
the time. It wasn't.
It wasn't by this board, so if any of the extracurricular wasn't followed.
Right,
On the building end, that wasn't
Right.
us.
that's what my
Or the
problem
board
is.
per se.
You'd be in a much better situation if the building
building
inspector
inspector had
at the
followed through
time
with all the-
had followed the building code. Because what Mr. Palmer is saying is that to bring this up to code is gonna be cost prohibitive.
Right.
So, that's not your fault. You were willing to do the right
You submitted
thing.
all the right paperwork.
I know.
It just didn't get,
Well, in the petitioner's defense, he wasn't thinking about having another accessory at the time.
right.
It's true.
So this is a new circumstance which is developed over time. And we're being asked to put the genie back in the bottle. I think this board, based on the discussions I'm hearing, is needs more time to think about this. Unless you want to go to a vote tonight.
I would, if the board agrees, I kind of would like to get a ruling as to whether or not we can even legally
Change a decision
change a
that you
decision.
made and what implication that has.
And what precedent?
That's a different question.
Right,
The first question I think you're asking is, can we even do this?
right.
Second question about precedent is something that goes into the evaluation of how you're going to vote on this eventually.
I would, yeah, okay. It's
So
an
I think,
ugly situation.
yeah, I think
I
that
know.
maybe a 2-week continuance, and I can reach out to town council on this question.
Yeah.
Ms. Mello, Ms. Dahl, does that sound like it's reasonable to
Yep.
you?
Can I ask a question? On on the permit that was issued, was that for relief of side footage?
Setback?
Was that
Setback?
setback?
Yeah, so the one from 2022,
Yes.
yes, it did meet all the minimum dimensional requirements.
Yeah, that's in the decision.
Right.
Okay,
So
and
so it
it's-
wasn't that
No.
that had to be,
No.
okay.
It was nothing about getting
No.
relief. or-
relief or anything like, there was no like variance needed.
I can pose a question to town council, but I'll tell you right now for what my opinion is worth. And I don't always agree with town council, as all of you know. But I think we can amend or modify. Ms. Mello raises an interesting question about how this might affect other folks similarly situated. Although this is, I think, the first one that we've heard where someone wants to
Right.
reduce.
Correct. But with the landscape going forward and all the noise about affordable housing, how younger generation, multi-generational, all of that stuff.
It's probably going to
It-
become,
Right. Yeah, I
More of
wouldn't
an
be
issue.
surprised if someone who already has an in-law that their parents were in would like to do an in-law
for their kids.
for their kids.
Right.
And then I think what Ms. Mello is suggesting, we open up a can of worms, right? Because everybody's going to want to do it.
Well, not everybody, but I mean, then
Others.
you've got to, right. And if the building codes were not followed at the time,
May I just, you brought up a very, very good point. And I never actually read the entirety of this zoning relief, but it would appear that this relief was for a setback.
That's what I thought. That's why I brought the question up.
The addition would be placed on the easterly side of the principal dwelling, requiring a 12-foot variance
Yeah.
from side lot setback requirement.
Okay, so you
To
did-
place the addition on the westerly side of the principal dwelling would require a variance of 22 feet.
Yeah, I thought I had read that.
So-
And then we got passed along,
So it was there for the variance
I'll let you read it.
as well.
As well, not entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Variance.
I thought I saw that. There was so much to be reading and looking at
Right.
that I thought I would bring that up.
That's the one thing I did remember.
And I saw the wheels turning
Yeah.
and you,
Yeah, that's the acceptable bylaw. So it was for both reasons. Okay, we've been at this for quite a while. I'm wondering whether you folks would like to obtain a legal opinion as to whether a
To see if we could.
previous
reverse-
decision,
yeah, to
not
see if we
reverse,
could
but
reverse it
amend.
and-
amend.
Amend.
I think so.
Yep. I also,
And would ask at the same time what that would do to
yeah,
other.
I'd want to
Other
know what the
cases as
bylaw
well.
was for. It's accessory dwelling units or in-law apartments.
In
whatever they-
2002.
What they were
Yeah,
then.
I can do that.
Can you do that?
legwork. Yeah.
Thank you. That would be helpful. And so we're going to pick a very quick return date.
I appreciate that.
Let's talk about that date now.
Sure.
And here's your, that goes back to Mr. Palmer as well.
He gave a copy to each one of us.
Oh, okay, then I'll take mine back. Thank you. All right, let's look at our respective schedules, please, Board. Let's look 2 weeks out.
August 6th. I'm good.
August 6th.
Yep, I'm good.
Yep.
How's that for quick?
I will be here, you just tell me what day. Yeah. I will be here.
Can I borrow your pen from it? Thank you. August 6th.
Same time?
6:30,
Yes.
yeah. Now, understand that if town council believes that that previous decision can be amended,
Yeah.
thereby recharacterizing what you did back then as additional living space and not an accessory, you're still going to have to get permitted for the one that you want to construct now,
I understand. I
right?
understand.
And it may benefit you to wait until, more waiting, but it might benefit you to wait, if things work out, for the AG to approve what folks at town meeting did, which modified substantially the existing bylaw relative to ADUs. Now, that town meeting was, what, 6 weeks ago now? Couple months?
Couple months.
Time passes so
April.
fast.
April.
April, May, June, so closer to 3 months. I would hope and expect that the AG will come back and say this, we have no problems with this, but they review all changes in all bylaws, not just this one. Okay?
Can I just bring up one more thing?
You can bring up whatever you like.
In Mr. Palmer's letter of May 27th, it says, "The glass door to the right of the entrance addition expansion permitted on 1/21/2023." I think that 2023 date is wrong.
Oh, it should have said 03.
Oh, three.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was
And I
super-
just, if this goes into the record, you just want it
Be
right.
Yeah, typo.
Yep, it was a typo, that's all. Because I'm saying to myself, oh, did they do a new door?
I have a lot of
Okay.
typos.
That's fine, I just, want to make that part of the record.
Okay, so I think that's where we are with things. We'll get that legal opinion, then we'll have to come back with that legal opinion in hand, which we'll share with you, we'll tell you what it says. And then we'll have to decide as a board what to do about that. If the legal opinion comes back and says, no, you can't reverse yourselves, this is what you decided, and we're going to have to stick with it, then, you're going to have to take an approach that maybe you don't want to have to take, which is spending more money than you thought you were going to. On the other hand, if town council says, well, you can do this, there was no appeal to the Superior Court and then on to the appeals court afterwards. This is the law, you made the law, you can change it. Then this board will have to decide whether we should be doing that, and whether that's going to open floodgates for other people who perhaps are similarly situated.
I actually.
Everybody get that?
Yeah, a question just popped into my head in the event of how this thing rolls, but how do the codes change if it's a freestanding unit?
Well, if it's not connected, then there's no fire separation assembly because you have a separate building.
That's the big one. I mean, I'm just saying,
Could they be connected by a deck? Would that be considered connected, or
No,
would
that, I
that?
mean, if you had two separate
Freestanding-
structures, then,
Yeah.
if you had a walkway or something between them, I wouldn't recognize that as a common wall, just a pathway from one to the other.
Good to know.
So that being said, if the
wasn't attached.
ADU, the third unit was going to have a walkway, would the applicant have to do anything with what is currently there?
I'm not sure if all
So the structure is the structure. And
the existing structure.
the existing structure is the existing structure. If there is a walkway to the new ADU,
Right.
and the planning board permits him for a second ADU, and because of the design, there's a walkway, nothing with the current structure that is there would have to be touched.
It would still require a sprinkler system.
The new ADU?
The whole building.
Because it's, even
So
if it's
all
a separate
ADUs
unit,
Well, that would be a decision by the fire chief.
okay,
But right now, do we have sprinkler systems required in every ADU that gets put in
he's saying
Carver?
3
No.
units.
Yes, exactly.
Just for 3 units?
For
Okay.
1 or 2 families, a sprinkler system is not required, just a firewall. Once you build something that contains 3 units, it requires a sprinkler system.
Okay.
Even, so, but that would be up to the fire chief. If that unit was totally separate, he could waive that if he chose
Could.
to. Okay,
Maybe we should have him come in the next time.
I think that would be a good idea.
Mr. Palmer, you expressed some concern about the cost of the fire suppression system if this goes to 2 ADUs. Do you have some estimate for the cost,
I don't.
other than saying it's just expensive?
Well, the reason I said it's expensive, Mr. Gray, is because every room will have to have a sprinkle head in it. So now you're introducing a water line throughout the entire house to
Retrofitting.
to every room.
Yeah.
In every room, the bathrooms, the kitchens, every room in the house, the basements, everything.
You would also have to have a sensor.
You have to have, the biggest
In each-
expense is the water supply. It can't be
Yeah.
from a well.
oh, whoa.
Yeah, you have to have a separate tank.
Where would the water come from at this property?
Holding tank.
A holding tank.
You would have to have a.
You have to have a separate holding tank.
A holding tank that holds hundreds of thousands of gallons of water
Yeah.
as a reserve. Or
Is there a
have
hydrant in the
municipal
area that they could hook up to? No?
Excuse me?
No,
Just-
hydrant.
We don't
In
have
Carver?
I
No.
Where are you living?
There's a bog nearby.
With a lengthy piece of hose.
You need a quarter mile of hose.
Okay, I think we understand the
The cost.
issues here, and we need to do a little homework. You're gonna research the bylaw as it existed back in 2022 when this matter came before the board.
2,000.
2,000.
I mean, 2002, excuse
Yep.
me. I will reach out to town council and get an opinion, one way or the other on this, which we will share with you, and we will come back in 2 weeks and let you know where we're going with this. In the meantime, you folks can continue to think about this and get your questions ready and get your thoughts together on how you would like to proceed.
Do we have to vote on a continuance here?
Yeah.
Yes,
Should
we
we
need a
invite
date to.
Chief Weston?
I think inviting Chief Weston, who is always responsible when I ask him to come, well, very responsive, I should say, would be a good idea. And I will reach out to him as well.
Thank you.
I think Jesse may also, if the chief can't. One of the deputies.
The deputy can.
Yeah, he's
Just-
got a fellow deputy chief who's in charge of code enforcement.
Okay.
I forget his name, it's on the tip of my tongue. But they're very knowledgeable, they're great guys.
Yep.
So we'll get the answers that we need so that we can pass them on to you. know that this is not probably what you want to be hearing from us tonight, but
No.
that decision from 2002 is a real fly in the ointment. It is.
Yeah, I understand. Had I been able to go a different route, I would have. Had I known what I was going to do 23 years later, I would have.
Of course we don't
Yeah.
know.
No,
Exactly
nobody
right, so
knows.
No,
there's nothing I
at
can-
the
I can
time, all we do
change
is take a snapshot, right?
And I do
Things
think-
change.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be an interesting trend, you know, like with these homes, because there is going to be a push for multi-generational living.
Yes.
In communities, especially like
There
Carver,
already
that are
is.
not- that
There
are
is.
not particularly, you know, affluent.
You're the first, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think
right.
you'll be
So
the last.
I get to be that guy.
Let's talk about a date.
You go.
I think we have
We
the
already
set.
did.
Yep, I think we have the
August
sixth.
6th, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that agreeable to you?
Agreeable.
Mr. Palmer, you're welcome to come back if you want, but we've heard you loud and clear. Thank you for your contributions this evening, as always.
Thank you.
We'll get the chief or the deputy chief in here, and I will have a legal opinion in hand at that point, and we will then decide as a board what we're going to do about this. Ms. Mello is puffing her cheeks.
We always get the hard ones.
That's why they pay us the big bucks. But this is okay. This is why we're here.
Yeah.
And we're going to make an informed and appropriate legal decision. As much as we may like you and think this is a good idea, and recognizing, as we just said, that there has been a change in the law, a change in viewing these kinds of issues, and a push for more multi-generational living. We acknowledge all of that, but first things first is that decision that we're under for 2002 right now. So we'll see what we can do with that,
Yep.
and I'll share that with you,
Yeah.
board members.
And I think 2 weeks is very reasonable, because normally we're 4 to 6 to 8 weeks for the next one.
Yeah.
And I think trying to.
I
get
hope that town
back here
council is
quickly.
not on vacation,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and if she is, then we'll let the planning department know that it might be, an extra week or something, but this is the summer after all, people go away.
Okay.
Mr. Poirier, you have anything?
Continuance.
August 6th, everybody good with that?
What do we have
Yes.
to vote to
I
continue
was
this?
just going to ask for a vote.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to continue this matter to August 6th with the understanding that the chair will seek a legal opinion and also invite either the chief or deputy chief of the Carver Fire Department in for our next meeting, and also that in the meantime, the vice chair will research the bylaw that was on the books in 2002. Altogether.
I'll make
Absolutely,
the,
I'll make that.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, actually, we need a second, right?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, there is no correspondence that I want to bring to anyone's attention at this point, and so I want to ask if anyone has anything they'd like to bring up. And would like to discuss.
No?
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Carver.